חייב אדם לברך על הרוק, שם יברך על הטבע שנאמר, ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך, בשני יצריך, בכל נפשך, אפילו נטלת נפשך, בכל מידך, בכל ממינך, דבר אחר, בכל מיד ומיד שמדד לך, ומדד לי במד מייד. This is a madrega of Avodas Hashem, where he thanks the Eibishter for the bad, just like he thanks the Eibishter for the good. Now, you can answer this question in two ways. You can ask this question from a practical perspective, and you can answer this question from a Torah perspective. From a practical perspective, the answer to your question is that this is very difficult, extraordinarily difficult. Bichlal, the idea that we know that what happens in our material life comes from Hashem, and not from our employer or our shadchan or our doctor or whatever, is a very big deal. Right? Emunah is a big deal. Emunah is big, it's huge, it's serious, it's important. The Heilige Rishon Rebbe had gesagt that before Mashiach, Emunah is going to be like a string that is suspended from one end of the world to the other, and is swinging vigorously, and you have to hang on. So just to believe in Hashgacha Pratis, just to believe that whatever happens in my life comes from Eibishter is awesome. But to say thank you for a patch is even more awesome. You have to be very sensitive, you have to be very tuned in. So, you're right, it's not easy, it's very not easy. Let me flip it around. In other words, instead of answering the question, and you understand quite well that I'm a human being. I'm not a tzaddik, I'm not a rebbe, I'm a person like everybody else. So it's not like this is, for me, a davar apashet, that you have to thank Hashem for the Yisurim and the Nisyenis and the Lamas Vestedim. It's a struggle. Let's flip it the other way. The other way is that when you raise yourself to a level where you see Hashem in everything in your life, including in the not good things, you are so unbelievably blessed. You're so fortunate. You're so rich. And you're so happy. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that when we hear this Mishnah and this Gemara, this interpretation of the Mishnah, the Pasuk and the Mishnah, the way we feel, some of us, is Hashem could be as miserable as he wants, and we have to say thank you. What a mean Eibishter, that kind of thinking, as if it's some kind of a draconian command. I don't care about you, tough luck, grin and bear it, and do it with a smile, that kind of thing. It's not the intention at all. The intention is be tuned into the Eibishter. And when you're tuned into the Eibishter and you say thank you, it's a warm thank you, it's not an angry thank you. Or to say it in other words, the koyach to deal with the ra comes from the same Eibishter. Where do you have strength to deal with challenges in life? From the one giving you those challenges, the Eibishter himself. I once heard from Yossi Paltiel, alav shalom, in the name of his shver. His father-in-law's name was Reb Zalman Hecht, Shlomo Zalman Hecht in Chicago. He was a chassid and a shliach and a goan and a chassidish sharid and a bal yisurim. That he said, Baruch Gezerim Kayim. The Eibishter schneit und halt. That's what we translated. The Eibishter cuts, but keeps it together. That's how he, Baruch Gezerim Kayim, the Eibishter schneit und halt. In other words, when you have hardships, the only one you can lean on in those hardships is the Eibishter himself. So it's true, it's not easy at all. But the ability to see Hashem in those hardships is from where the strength comes to overcome those hardships. We're living in the post-emancipation of Rabashkin era. We have a living example of this. That you could see b'neshama b'gufa b'basa, a human being who's a personification of levarach al harok, shem levarach al hateva. And he's become a tzaddik. He's a hecher mensch. He's healthier and happier and better for it, and he's contagious. Everybody around him is touched by this contagion of bitachon and emunah. So it's taka difficult, but don't look at it as another command, as another instruction. To the contrary, it's an empowerment. The ability to deal with the hardships in our lives, which come from God, is from God. And when we connect ourselves to Him, this is where the strength comes from to deal with the hardships that the Eibishter gave us. And I think this is a realistic way to understand what the Mishnah is saying. The Alter Rebbe, okay, this is the first thought that I wanted to share. But I want to give you the classical approach. In other words, now that I discussed it a little bit in a practical way, let's talk about it in an ideal way. Alter Rebbe in Tanya, you have the Igeres HaKedesh Yud Aleph and Igeres HaKedesh Chof Beis, the 11th letter and the 22nd letter. And you also have it in the Likutei Amorim Sefer Shabbeinu Perek Chavov, where the Alter Rebbe uses very strong language about a person who has a difficulty appreciating that the bad in his life comes from the Eibishter. You know, there's a Jew who walks on this earth who we could see in Shul. His name is Rabbi Nissen Mangel. And he was in Auschwitz. He has the number, he has a tattoo on his arm. And he was asked many, many times, quote, where was God during the Holocaust? And without a hesitation, he answers, with me. The Holocaust was tragic. If you hear him tell the story of the Death March, he says every single man who survived that Death March is l'mayla. They're walking in one of the coldest winters on record in pajamas, sleeping on the cold ground, eating snow for weeks, and thousands survived. Totally supernatural. Now, chas v'sholom, we're not trying to be matzdik esadin, but in the darkest of times, there is the Eibishter. And you draw strength from the Eibishter to go through those darknesses. Anyway, but Alter Rebbe in Tanya has very strong words for a person who has issue with this. In the 22nd letter of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe says that imagine your father who loves you, slaps you in the face. You're going to turn tail and run? You're going to report him to the police? Or you're going to stand and wait for the second patch, knowing that if your father gives you a patch, he knows what he's doing. And Alter Rebbe makes this point, right? If you really believe in the Eibishter, and that everything comes from the Eibishter, everything is good. And then he gets the Kedesh Yud Aleph, and this 11th, he gets the Kedesh Laskil Chopin, and the Alter Rebbe actually uses the terminology Eidev Rav. Eidev Rav means Yidden, who are a mix of Tev and Ra. Eidev Rav means Yidden, who by them there's a Taruvis of Tev and Ra. In other words, they're Taka Yidden, and they have connection to the Eibishter, but the Yitzhahara is Tefes Machon. And the Alter Rebbe argues that the way a Yid is supposed to be is Tabetachan in the Eibishter, that ain't Ra Yeded no Maila. And this is our test, this is our nisayon, to see the Eibishter in every facet in our lives, even those parts of our lives which are not so favorable. And like I said before, it's the greatest thing you can do for yourself. It's the greatest bracha that the Eibishter gives us when the Eibishter gives us a patch, is himself, because he's the refuah to those nisyanis.